Hello and welcome to a new video. So today's video subject is going to be all about drum books and essentially what I would like to think of as the 5 most essential drum books that you need. So the reason I've made this very controversial subject in terms of this is the ones you need and etc. is because I found that there's so many books out there it can be really overwhelming in terms of drumming because obviously it's such a huge subject and there's so much to learn. It can be really overwhelming, and I went through a phase of just buying every single drum book that I could find, and I've got this huge collection now that I've barely started to work through because it's, again, very hard to choose something and stick with it. So if you stick to, 5 or 6 books and you just work through each of them slowly, you'll end up actually probably practicing more that way rather than just buying all these books. So these are my 5 recommendations that you'd start off with. Now obviously this is just my opinion, but these are the books that I've found the most useful when practicing. And I think I've got loads and loads of books, and these are the ones that I come back to, and they're the most usable and they're the most reusable, which is important, so you can change the exercises up and do different things with them, and really helped me in just the basics of drumming, but then they're very good for advanced stuff as well. Now it goes without saying that you do need some reading knowledge to get the most out of these books. So if you don't know how to read, I'd recommend going to a teacher or watching some videos and getting the basics of reading first, because that'll come in really handy when you're working through these books. Saying that though, a lot of these books, they start off really simple, so if you can just read simple notation, that's perfectly okay. So I'm going to shut up and just let you see all these books now. Gotta have my coffee first though. So the first book I'm going to show you is basically the Bible for drummers. It is Stick Control for the Snare Drummer by George Lawrence Stone. So this one, as you can see, it looks quite old, and that is because it is really old. This is from, I think it's from 1935 or something, but the thing is, it's still being used today, so that shows you how valuable this book is. So this book, like it says in the title, is Stick Control for the Snare Drummer. It's based on snare drum stuff, but the thing is, it's great for us drummers because it allows us to work on our hands in such a way where you're just doing these exercises over and over again, and you just start to notice a difference. This book recommends you practice for an hour every day, because it basically says that you need to be consistent to get the most out of this book. And I agree. Even if you're not doing an hour and you're doing half an hour or even 15 minutes a day, you'll start to notice that going through these exercises, your hands will start to become faster, stronger. They'll have much more endurance because you're working on this every day, and you'll be much more accurate, especially if you're playing to a metronome, which I highly advise. But this book is honestly probably one of the most important books that you can have as a drummer. I think all the pros swear by it, and it is something that every drummer should go through at some point. I've been quite guilty because I've been missing out for a few years now, and I've only just got it. So I'm actually working through this at the moment, and I can already tell that it's making a huge difference to my playing. And obviously it's just for the hands, but you can start to use these exercises in different ways, and sub out the left hand for a kick drum, things like that. But this book is amazing. Highly recommend it. Oh, and by the way, it'll kick your ass because it starts easy, but you'll soon see that it starts to get quite hard and harder and harder, and then by the end you're just like sweating. But I promise you, if you stick with it, you'll just be a better drummer overall. So sticking with the snare drum theme, my second book is Buddy Rich's Modern Interpretations of Snare Drum Rudiments. So this book is another one that will kick your butt. Obviously, because it's by Buddy Rich, it's not going to be super easy, but it does start out okay, and then it starts to get a bit more hard towards the end. This book's great for if you're wanting to learn a bit more about how the rudiments work and how you can combine these rudiments. Let's say you've learned all the 40 standard rudiments and you want to expand your vocabulary, this is a great book for it as well. So if you're a snare drummer or you're a kit player, this is a great book. Highly recommend it. Coffee break. So moving on to number 3. So this book is moving away from the snare drum stuff and starting to focus more on the kit stuff. It's again quite old, but again people swear by it, and I swear by it too. It's amazing. So this one is Advanced Concepts for the Modern Drummer by Jim Chapin. Obviously, modern drummer back then would be a jazz drummer. So this is a kind of jazz focused book, but the way it can build independence is fantastic. I will say, if you're not a confident reader, it can be quite hard and intimidating looking at this because it is quite old. So the sheet music itself is quite hard to read sometimes, but if you stick with this, it's going to do wonders for you. So what I found with this book is, although it is focused on jazz, it's actually a great book for just independence in general. It focuses on, doing swing patterns with the right hand and then doing comping patterns with the left. And, doing triplets, eighth notes, etc. and different patterns that way. But what you could do is you can swap out the notation from the snare drum, let's say, to doing the syncopations and the comping on the right foot on the kick drum, or the left foot on the hi-hat, or doing accents on the ride cymbal that way. So what this will end up doing if you work it through that way and just isolate different limbs with these exercises is that you'll have fantastic independence by the end of it. I'm working on my left hand at the moment because I want to get comfortable with jazz comping, so this is great for jazz stuff as well. If you want to just learn how to do independent stuff, this is a great book. So Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer, there you go. Boom, number 3. So number 4 is another oldie by Ted Reed. It is Syncopation for the Modern Drummer. Again, not very modern these days, but there's a reason I've picked all these old books, is because they've clearly lasted a long time for a reason, and that's because they're absolutely amazing books. So number 4 is another oldie. It is Syncopation for the Modern Drummer again, by Ted Reed. And this is, again, a great book. The reason I've picked all these old books is because obviously there's a reason they're still going and they're still being published today, is because they're absolutely fantastic. So this one's a bit different to the Advanced Techniques of a Modern Drummer. It kind of focuses on snare drum again, but it's basically just a book of rhythms and rhythms and rhythms for pages and pages. And what this means is that you can basically use these rhythms in any way you see fit. So firstly, it's a great one for learning how to read and how to sight read music, but also you can start to use these rhythms in such a way where, very similar to the Jim Chapin book, you can start to play these as, instead of just playing them on the snare drum, you can just use them as kick drum notes, so learn how to do kick drum independence that way, or start to play a swing pattern and use these as different snare drum comping things. Personally, I like to use this as double bass stuff because it starts to get into the 16th notes and all that good stuff in the kind of faster subdivisions. So if you play like just a standard rock beat ostinato with the hands, you can start to implement these rhythms on the kick drums, and that's a great way to build up some different unique rhythms that you wouldn't normally play or think to play on a bass drum, or a double bass drum, sorry. And you can do anything you want with this one. This is just a bank of rhythms that you can use in any way you see fit, and I absolutely love it. This is the first book I actually ever got because I went to uni, and this is the one book the drum teacher told me to get, so that's how important it is. So my 5th and final one is not an oldie. It's not that popular, I don't think. As far as I'm aware, I've not heard many people talk about this one, but this is the one that I've gone to probably the most, to be honest. If I'm truly honest, this is the one I really go to all the time, and it's basically just a big old book, 100 Essential Drum Set Lessons. It's by Terry O'Mahony. Sorry, I don't know how to say that. Terry O'Mahony. So the reason I love this book is because it's basically got everything you'd ever need for drums. Obviously that's an overstatement, but it's got everything that you'd ever need for most modern playing. So it's got everything from rock, funk, metal, double bass drumming, Afro-Cuban, jazz soloing. It's got all these great lessons and exercises to give you basically a nice foundation of all the normal playing that you'd play on a drum set. And it means it gives you a nice place where you can sit comfortably and play most genres and feel comfortable. So let's say I've got a reggae gig coming up and I'm a bit like, I can probably make do with the reggae, but not that confident. I could just go in here, look up reggae, and it'll have a great couple lessons that'll just get me through and maybe sound really authentic when I'm playing it. And that's what I love about this book. It's not got huge details about all these different genres, but it gives you a nice, foundational knowledge that then you can work from. So this is definitely the one I go back to the most because it's got so much stuff in it, and if you work through this, you'll be a great overall drummer. Get this book, it is a lifesaver. So those are my top 5 books that I recommend for drummers. So if you work through these, you'll have a great foundational knowledge and you'll be a very competent player by the end of it. So what I want to give you some honorary mentions. We've got a couple extra books here that are, you know, not essential, but are again really good. So the next one I've got here is the Breakbeat Bible. So if you want to work on grooves and things, I recommend the Breakbeat Bible. It's great for if you want to do funk stuff or you want to work on drum and bass. Breakbeat Bible by Mike Adamo. So another great one that I'd recommend if you're wanting to work on foot technique is Thomas Lang's Creative Coordination and Advanced Foot Technique book. This will kick your ass again, as usual. I've not actually worked through this because I don't actually have a double pedal, but if you're looking to do some crazy double pedal stuff and work on foot coordination, this is the book you want. So, yep, that's another one. I'm just going to list you all my books that I've got because they're all great for some reason. So the final one I want to mention is this one here. It is Modern Reading Text in 4/4 by Louis Belson and Joe Brines, yeah. And this one is great for if you're wanting to learn how to sight read a bit better, but you've already got a bit of a knowledge of how to read. So it doesn't actually tell you how to read music. It's just got pages and pages of rhythms that you can use, and it's a great one to just go through and say you're just doing 4 in the 4 kick and 2 and 4 in the hi-hat, and you can just play these rhythms and just work through them all, sight read them all, and just play them on the snare drum. It's a great way to sight read. Anyway, that just about wraps up the video. I'm going to stop talking. I've been rambling on for about 20 minutes now, just talking about all these books I love, but if you've got any questions about them, or you've got any queries or hesitations about any, just let me know and I can do my best to answer them. But yeah, stick with those first 5 and you'll have that amazing knowledge, baseline knowledge, and then start to hone in different things and you'll be a great drummer. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video and take care.